Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. As always, honored to be here with you. I have to tell you, I have looked forward all week to being with you, to connecting in a space where we choose to uplift each other, where we choose to honor the spirit, where we choose to live in the light. Sometimes it feels hard. We don't see the light, and when we don't see the light, it can just, life can be not as sweet as we would like for it to be. Let's just say that. And so this has been a tough week for many people, maybe for everybody, no matter what side of the line, so to speak, you find yourself in terms of politics. I'm going to say most people that I know don't even want to be involved in politics. Yet we live in a political world, and therefore, it's part of our life, whether we want it to be or not. And I spent the weekend with friends in a very beautiful healing capacity. We were out in nature and had a fire and just chose to talk about positive things and about the future and to reflect on our lives as we have evolved over the years. And it was a beautiful thing. And I want to recommend that to everyone. A few things, like my mother says, choose good company, keep good company. You choose it and you keep it. And these are friends who, I don't know, we've known for about 15, 17 years, a long time. And they were great company. And it was super important to spend time with people who love you and who choose to be uplifting. Because there are lots of people that you could love and not everybody chooses the positive, but this was a group that had that intention, and that's what we did together. And I so think it's important, especially if you feel tender, to spend your time with people who can be tender with you in an uplifting way. I spoke to a number of people just checking in to see how they were feeling. I bet you did the same thing. And listened at one point to someone with whom I do not have the same political views, although I knew some of them were different, but that's fine. I mean, we live in a democracy. You're supposed to be able to have different ideas. But what I thought I heard, based upon my experience as a journalist, as someone who has studied history, as someone who's paid a lot of very close attention to what's going on in the world right now, from my perspective, and I need to make sure I put it that way, I heard what sounded like political rhetoric, almost verbatim, spoken as fact. And it was scary to me, quite frankly. And it created what felt like, it was certainly a heated discussion that came to no end. We both retreated to our corners in the conversation. And I realized, wow, when people have very different views, it can be impossible to hear through, maybe even to listen. And I'll say on both sides. I think we both thought we were right. And it got me thinking about what happens when people do not speak the truth. Now, I'm not talking about me or my friend. I'm talking about when we are in a culture, in a community, and also if it's us, but in this case, I'm not talking about the two of us. But when we're in a situation where people don't tell the truth, where they lie, where they say things that are untrue as if they are true, and they repeat them, what happens? If you hear something again and again that has been put forth as if it is true, and then you start hearing it from people you trust, people you know, people you value, then very often you decide, well, it must be true. And in this world in which we live today, where most people get their information online, you have an idea in one way or another, and the algorithm, we've heard this so often, the algorithm, the way that the internet is set up, the way I am a layperson in terms of how to explain what I have been taught or in this regard. But whatever you're interested in, the internet is going to feed you more and more and more of it. So it will make you think that something is true because you keep getting more and more of it. So, how do you know what's true? How do you know what is true? How can you stand your ground on something that perhaps you feel strongly about and you've been told information that may not be true, but you don't know it? How can you know what's true? This is one of the scariest things that's happening right now. We live in a disinformation world. And what just happened yesterday for me felt like two people arguing a point when the truth was somewhere hanging out in the middle, but what is it? And both of us were believing something different about what is true, which is different from having a different opinion about something that is true. We were arguing about whether something was true or not, and standing our ground that I think what I believe is true and you think what you believe is true. Have you had that happen to you? Have you ever been in a situation like that? Have you been in that situation now around politics, around governance? I remember when I wrote my book, How to Be, which is all about how to live with grace and integrity, understanding who you are from where you come and what's expected along the way. And when that book came out, which is now 25 years ago, there was a war going on. I don't even remember. Maybe it was the Gulf War. There was a lot of hostility, a lot of death, a lot of finger pointing that led to death, a lot of uncertainty, and the whole world was worried. Feels similar to where we are today, that I feel in some ways the whole world is worried about what is next and what is true. And as I was working on that book and thinking about, well, what can the individual do? What can I do? What can you do to make this world a better place just for ourselves, our loved ones, our coworkers, our neighbors, our community, our families, our people, whoever your people are, which should be all people, humanity. And what I came to was something that is very basic, but it was, how do you comport yourself? How do you move through space? How do you live? How do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of people? How do you communicate with people? What do you put out there? And how do you live? And how do you interact with others? And are you conscious of how you do that? And the foundation of that, to my understanding, and from all that I've been taught, is to be honest, to speak the truth, to live the truth, to be vigilant about being honest, which, by the way, requires research because you can be honest in your heart. I believe this. But if you are believing something that actually is inaccurate, then it messes up the whole thing all over again. So you have to do research, you have to study, you have to keep your eyes wide open and pay attention. Pay attention to what people do, not just what they say. Pay attention to history. Pay attention to loved ones. Pay attention to faith and how you understand how to live and how to have integrity. I feel very emotional about this because, as I said, just yesterday, I had a pretty heated conversation with someone who I love dearly. We do not share the same political views. And the more I get to know this person, the more I see that. That's okay. It, to me, and probably to my friend, we're listening to each other and going, well, that's not true. And why am I mentioning this? Because what happened was like it was like a fire. It was like a fire in a friendship. I feel strongly about this. I feel strongly about that. Like if it were literally a fire and we were around a fire this weekend with friends and you put another log on the fire and pew, it explodes and it felt explosive in a way that was disturbing. In part for me, and I'm going to assume for my friend, because we both felt we were right. And I don't think that's true. So I want to know how you all feel about your relationship with the truth, how you figure out what is true. What do you do today in these tender moments to help yourself and to be in community with others during these tender times? And if you would like, you can join this conversation. You of course can write in the chat box and I'll respond to you. And I'm seeing there's Michelle Joseph and I can't see everybody's name, but hello to all of you who are here. And also you could come online. If you go to my website, harrietcole.com/inspiration, if you would like to be in this conversation now, you can come in and we'll bring you up on stage and you can talk. If you'd like to turn on your camera, we can look at each other and talk, and otherwise we can just hear you. But I'd love to be in conversation with any of you who would like to talk about this. This is such a tender topic right now. The quote, let me go to the quote that I found, and I searched to figure out because I wanted to talk about speaking the truth and what this means and what I just described to you. So the quote I found, which is a different quote than normal, it's a Chinese proverb. It says, "One man tells a lie, dozens repeat it as the truth." See, this is something to contemplate. One man tells a lie, dozens repeat it as the truth. I feel like this is happening a lot in our culture. One of the things that my friends said that I do agree with is politicians lie. They all lie. Okay. But at what level? To what intention? Why lie? Why is that a thing? And, other quotes that I found talk about how challenging it is to be honest when it's a difficult topic. It's a difficult situation when you've been wrong or when you want something and the truth stands in the way of you getting it. Yeah, I looked at quotes about truth and integrity. And integrity, one of the quotes said, is when you tell yourself the truth, and honesty is when you share it with others. So what is this? When one man tells a lie, dozens repeat it as the truth, and then suddenly there is the belief that what is out there is true. And there have been so many things that have been said about the way that some people live in our country, the way that some people are, who they are, what they stand for, that are bold-faced lies, but said so often that people believe them. It troubles me. You know, there are probably, if you watch dramas, films, or read books that are dramatic, one of the most favored storylines is about, you know, people being wronged because of lies. How do you get past a lie? How do you get past information that is shared, perhaps about you or someone else, when it's untrue and it's hard to get people to believe or even understand what is true? How do you do that? It's really, really tough. So I see that Michelle Joseph, who was writing to us, is here. So we're going to welcome her onto the platform with me. Hi, Michelle. Can we hear you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. How are you?
I'm well, Harriet. Look,
Thank you for
we
joining.
go way back, and I've been following you and reading your books, and I think this topic is dear to me as well. I went through a very similar situation with a conversation, and it shook me.
Yes.
So I'm
And
so
so
glad
share what you would like about it. So people, I think it's helpful for people to hear. It doesn't have to be the, can you hear me?
yeah, but there's a bit of an echo, so I'm trying to get rid of the echo.
Okay, let's see. Hopefully you can hear me. Um, um, I'm saying I think it helps other people to hear what we've been going through. So it doesn't have to be the specifics. It could be the specifics, but I, I I would like for you to share what you can about the conversation and how you handled it, or you know, what happened, to help other people see how challenging these moments are, and how are we handling them.
There's a little bit of delay, so hang on.
That's okay. So if you would share what happened and how you handled it.
So first of all, it was a very dear friend of mine. We got together for coffee. I hadn't seen her in a while, and we're chatting, and then the election came up. And, what I heard her saying, I was holding my tongue at first, not wanting to offend her, but then there got to a point where, like, "Wait a minute, stop. This is all not true. Think about it. This doesn't make sense." And it started to escalate into argument. And that's not what I we got together for. And I saw a side of my friend I felt I didn't understand, or I couldn't connect with, because we couldn't come to terms with it. So I took a step back, and I remember what I had done when January 6th hit, and I had conversations like this before. And I came to a point where I said, "We've got to agree that what happened January 6th, where someone unfortunately died and people were, uh, literally, beaten and oppressed, was not a good thing." And we
Mhm.
both came together on that one point. Yes, it wasn't a good thing. Yeah, it was destructive. Yeah, it was violent. So I sought to talk to her about what specifically can we discuss where we could come together and agree on one thing. And we both agreed that there's a lot of turmoil and a lot of lies and a lot of upheaval in throughout the world right now. And it's hard to find peace and wholeness, and sometimes we wanna just turn the channel and numb the brain, but that doesn't solve the problem. So that's where we came together on that point. I hope that
I,
helps.
I appreciate that because you look for common ground, and I think actually in my conversation with my friend looked for common ground. Well, can't we both agree that we should pray for this man who is about to be in office? Pray that he will do right by everyone. Pray that these promises, at least some of them that he's made, like improving the economy, will happen so that more of us will do better. This was this was what my friend offered. Can't we agree that we should pray on these things? And I said, absolutely. But I have to tell you something. It was hard for me. And this is why I do this, because like part of me doesn't want to pray for him. Um, and I don't feel good about saying that because that's not right. That's not how I was reared. But my friend was like, look, what other choice do we have? And this is a person, by the way, who supports the new president. And that blew my mind 100,000%. But guess what? We live in America and a whole bunch of people support the person who is about to be in office. So, okay, we came to an agreement, like you said. There was this one thing. We both are prayerful. Let's pray for the best possible outcome. And, my brain started clicking to, yeah, well, I remember last time the whole government intentionally didn't let all kinds of things happen because they didn't want good things to happen, like under Obama, if you will remember. They went they worked overtime to stop him in his tracks to make sure that things didn't happen that could have happened. And again, but if I take the high road, which is what I proclaim here every week, I have to say, but if I want the best possible outcome, that's where my focus has to be. This is hard though, Michelle. This is a really tough time. And in the context of what is true or not, because today's broadcast, we're talking about the truth. If one person says something that isn't true and then it's repeated how many times, then what happens? It's crazy. So I like your idea about finding common ground with your loved ones. And whether they're your loved ones or not, the people in your sphere, find common ground, do your best not to be negative, and keep looking for the light, I guess is really it. But I think the other thing is we have to be vigilant in challenging things that we don't think are true. I
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
that is absolutely it. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us. We
You're
appreciate
most
it.
welcome.
Yes, it's wonderful to see you and talk to you, and I'll share with everyone, if you'd like to join the conversation, we have a few more minutes. You go online to harrietcole.com/inspiration, and you can join this conversation now. Appreciate that Michelle Joseph joined. It's not scary. It's great to be able to talk to each other about really challenging things. I want to say hello to my friend Carlton Jones. I see who is here, and Dave C. Muhammad. Hello. When I see your names, I can say hi to you. And I know a lot of people watch or listen to this broadcast later on demand. So I'll say hello to all of you who are here on demand at your leisure. How can we choose to speak the truth, to learn the truth, to research the truth, to challenge people about the truth, and to stay positive? I think that is one of the things that is a huge challenge right now. I think many of us are feeling tender still about the world in which we live and all that's going on. Someone says, read the Bible, partner with a neighbor to plan to focus on compassion. Amen to that. Amen to that. And I'll say, read the Bible. And I know that there are people who are part of the Dreamleapers inspiration community who are of other faiths. So I will say to you, whatever your scripture is, the messages are the same. Have compassion, treat each other with love and respect, honor each other. find ways to the truth. The truth is everything. And I remember I was working on another book some years ago, and I think it was my book, Choosing Truth, actually. That's an inner meditation kind of book. And a researcher was working with me, and she challenged me about everything. Is this true what you were saying, Harriet? And should you dig a little deeper and look into other historical materials for the information that you are sharing? Because are you sure it's true? And I remember when I was in college in a journalism class, one of the things that we were taught is that you cannot look at one source and believe it's true. You have to look at multiple sources that represent different points of view in order to figure out what is true. And this is when the intention is there for all of these news sources, let's say, to tell the truth, not to try to gloss over things, but everyone has a perspective, everyone has an audience, everyone has a worldview. So let's see if and when in this class, I remember, and actually my friend Eric Easter, who's a journalist, really great journalist and thinker, and he would challenge me about this too. What are you reading? And if you're only reading American publications, that's not enough. You have to look at Middle Eastern publications and European publications and African publications and, the range, so that you can understand people's perspectives. How are they living? What do they care about? What is important to them? And how do they see what is happening? Because even when the intention is to share the truth, which is not always so, the perspective could make it seem completely different. That is something that we just aren't doing the way that we used to, even though access to information is much easier. Again, that algorithm can take us right down a path that proves to us that whatever we think is true, whether it is or not. And so I want to challenge all of us. Like, keep your mouth shut while you learn. Be careful when you speak. Do your best to say and live what you believe to be true based upon all the information that you have gathered and processed. Challenge people if you think what they're saying is untrue, respectfully. Again, what happened with my friend and me is we were very respectful, but it was heated. Sometimes it's going to be heated. You can love people even through the heat. You can challenge people and still be respectful. You can go back and do more research to try to prove a point. If someone is adamant about something that you in your heart know to be untrue, do the research and bring it back to the person so you can discuss it some more. Don't just say whatever, it doesn't matter. It does matter. The truth is everything. And we live in a culture where people are saying things that are untrue, and it's spreading like wildfire, and people are getting hurt because of it. And so I want to challenge every single one of us to live the truth, to honor the truth, to do our research, to figure out what is true to the best of our ability, and then stay in the light. Choose to examine the truth through open eyes in the broadest daylight, conceptually, so that you can look through and see, does this make sense? And if something really doesn't make sense, don't believe it. You don't have to. I think in our country, a lot of people are so comfortable that they're like, well, I don't have to think about that. Don't be comfortable. Be vigilant. Vigilantly take care of yourself. Honor yourself, your body, your being, your spirit, the people you love, your family, your community, and, as my friend said, the people maybe who you don't. honor the greatness in people and look to help support and cultivate that, and hold people accountable when they aren't telling the truth. Don't just believe something because somebody told you. Check it out. Know that, like that Chinese proverb said, just one man who tells a lie and doesn't repeat it as the truth, and then what happens? People start believing lies. Right now, a lot of people are believing lies. I don't want to. I want to sift through and find the truth. And I want to do it with my friends. I want to challenge each other to greatness. And what I mentioned before about how to be 25 years ago, I think it was the Gulf War, and the war is waging. And like, what are we doing here? And one of the things that we do here, because I didn't get this point out earlier, one of the things that we do in close relationships, if we have friction, we are, if we have friction with each other, and then go out and tell somebody. So this often, let's use this as an example in a love relationship, marriage, partnership, whatever it is. And you go out and so and so did this to me and I can't believe it, and you're screaming and hollering and wagging your head, and then you tell that to somebody and they tell it to 10 other people. Then you've resolved it. The next time you are out with your partner and you see these people, they're giving your partner the side eye, but you're over it. Remember that used to happen with friends in school. Your mom is still mad and you're not mad anymore. You had created a fire. How do you put the fire out? Your partner feels the fire because you fed it to those people and they're feeding it back to you and your partner. What we can do now is not create fires. We can talk, we can debate, we can challenge, we can learn, and we can love through whatever the challenges are. Honestly, we can debate what the truth is compassionately, with respect. It's not easy to do, y'all. It's really hard to do. And it's essential in order for us to get through these challenging times. Because otherwise, we just won't talk to each other. Well, I'm not going to talk to you about that anymore because, we fight. I don't want us to stop talking to each other. I want us to learn from each other, to trust that we are making the effort to explore the truth and not lie, even if it's hard. So let's move forth this week with honesty, with contemplation, with compassion. And as Davison says, authenticating our sources. Don't just say it's true. Check, double check. Make sure it's true before you open your mouth. And be kind through it to yourself and to others. Be really tender with each other. This is a hard time. So as my dear friend Rashid says, give yourself a hug because we need it. I offer a hug to you as well. Let's see. Someone says, I think the biggest thing is always first intentionally finding understanding about what's being said before we can judge what's being said. Yes. Approaching it with understanding and compassion. Okay, we think differently. Let me understand why you think that way. What is your perspective? You're coming at this in this way. What does it mean to you? Through the inflammatory talk, what are you really saying? Can I get through the flames and hear what's in your heart? If you can, then you can find peace and sweetness. And it's hard, and we can do it. So meditate, take deep breaths, drink water, take a walk, love yourself, love the people around you, and practice every day. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I offer you all the love in my heart. And until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.